You are now live on Channel 8 and YouTube.
Okay, well, welcome everybody. We'll call this meeting of the Templeton Community Preservation Committee to order. We are live from the Templeton Town Hall where we have 3 of our members and we have 2 on the Zoom call to give us our quorum of 5. So I don't know if everybody has a copy of the agenda or not. It was posted. The first thing to discuss will be Dennis sent out a list of the minutes from our informational meeting in June. It was just a brief synopsis and it was not an official meeting, but anybody have any discussion on that?
I don't think not looked at it, but I did.
I printed it here. Okay, I can read the whole minutes here. Minutes for the Community Preservation Committee held on June 10th on the Zoom, assistants of Templeton TCTV, members President John Henshaw, Joy Tainter, Joanne Burden, and Dennis Rich. The meeting opened with Mr. Henshaw acknowledging that we were unlikely to have a quorum and that the meeting would be brief and unofficial. No votes would be taken. Because some members of the committee were attending or working at the town farmers market for the summer, the next couple of meetings would begin at 7 rather than 6:30. We found that to be not the case. We're still doing 6:30. Meeting adjourned at 6:45. Next meeting was scheduled for July 8th at 7 p.m., which also was not held. Minutes for this meeting are submitted by Dennis Rich. So that's all we got. And do I have a motion to accept?
Make a motion to accept.
Motion by Brad. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Carrie. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye or waving your hand or both.
Aye.
Okay, unanimous. Thank you very much. Okay, the next item is the town meeting update. So as you recall, at the annual town meeting, we haven't really had any meetings with the Zoom and, everything, not having a quorum. We haven't had a chance to discuss the fact that one of the 2 projects passed at the town meeting. That's the Baldwinville Elementary project. That is the big one, $1.174 million of CPC funds to be leveraged in a $20 million project put on by Zahler and Associates to renovate and rehabilitate and preserve the Baldwinville Elementary School and build additional community housing. It's my understanding that the proponent of the project is coming forward to the town to have some discussions regarding the comprehensive permit on that. So things appear to be going forward. I know there's a lot of permits and a lot of funding issues and things like that, but it does appear like things are on track. That would be something that construction wouldn't start for at least a year or God only knows how long, but that's going forward. The other project was for the to finish up the Gilman Waite field project. And that one was met with a lot of resistance because a lot of people were unclear on the process. A lot of people spoke about, whether this was the appropriate use and who was the appropriate signatory. So in order for us to revisit that, to see if there is a community preservation project going forward, we're going to have to meet with the select board, I think, to make sure we know who has the authority, who wants, and then come back to the townspeople if it's so, if it's something that the people still want to do. So that's still in limbo. Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
can I just notify you of something? If you haven't already, can you identify everyone in the meeting and who's online for our hybrid meetings? The Attorney General would like us to do that. And
Do you want me to just
also-
call her up? Tell her? Yeah.
Yeah, just, who's here and who's online. And when you take votes, because people are on virtually, it should be done with a roll call.
Okay. All right. So I'm John Henshaw. I'm the chairperson of the Community Preservation Committee in Templeton. And to my left, we have Dennis Rich. And to his left is Brad Leighton. So those 3 representatives are here. On the phone from the committee, we have Carrie Novak and Joanne Burden for a total of 5 of the 9 committee members. The vote was unanimous for the minutes, so we're not going to do a roll call, but we will, going forward, any votes will be a roll call vote. Thank you, Steve, for that clarification. Now we have a couple of guests here. Tom, I don't know if you were in a hurry to leave. We can move you around. Okay. And did you have an item you wanted to present? You're here for informational. Okay. So the next item on the agenda was regarding the CPC finances. And so we have, over the past year, we've closed up some projects. The budget year ended June 30th, and so our town accountant finished up the books for that. Essentially, we have had a request from the advisory committee to go through and kind of evaluate the projects we have to kind of give a status as to what the expected completion dates, et cetera, will be. So I'm going to go through some of these projects and just kind of give an update on them. Now, the one that was brought to our attention was because it is old. It's from 2010, and that's the creation of the Conservation Fund. Now, that's a different type of a project because that fund creates a reserve of dollars to be used as appropriate for open space. Originally, the town voted $15,000 for that and has spent $7,000, so there's still a balance of $8,000, and that is available for open space related project work that might be required to move a project forward, whether it would be something like surveyor or something like that, or in this case, the monies were spent for the to pay for the open space and recreation plan. Next, we have the Stone Bridge project, which was 2019. That is to evaluate how to move forward with that. There has been some preliminary work done to come up with some options for what the town can do to, move forward with the fact that the Stone Bridge is no longer being used. It's very cost prohibitive, and the state would step in with some different requirements than had been in place for the hundreds of years that it was there, related to safety, et cetera. And so that was $35,000 that had been voted for that. Only $1,000 has been spent towards that. That would be in conjunction with the board of selectmen, the town manager, town administrator, and highway department. So we'll have discussions over that going forward. We have the Dwelly Farm project. Dwelly Farm is a conservation area that the town has supported in developing a conservation restriction. And in the past, in 2019, we voted to support their efforts to open some land up and to plant some pollinator gardens and things like that. We did get an update from that project that it is going on track. There's $17,728 remaining in that, but because it's a timed event, they have things coming up over the next year, almost a year and a half or so before that will be done, but that's going according to plan.
Excuse me, John. What was
Yeah.
the total on that?
So the balance remaining is 17,729 out of the original 62,000.
17,000.
729. Okay. The next item is the Grange Hall. Now that was passed in 2018, and that is $15,000 towards the improving the accessibility egress to the building. And that's the one that we've had a request from the Historical Society, Narragansett Historical Society, who was the proponent for that project. When we write a grant award agreement, the language indicates that the project expectation is that it will be complete within 3 years, but it is up to the committee to extend it for reasons if it's warranted. So that is coming up on 3 years. We've had a request to extend it because of the fact that there's been a change of contractor and other things. Now we have Mr. Tom Hurd here, who's from the Historical Society. Could you speak to how much longer you would expect to have? And I would also state that there is additional funds on an additional project to do some additional work voted that was in 2019. And that was $38,000 to do additional rehabilitation work. But specifically to the egress, that was the one that the 3-year window is up. And I don't know if you have anything.
Yeah, I can certainly speak on behalf of the Narragansett Historical Society. Unfortunately, with COVID and one of the major contractors for the project had some health concerns. So that kind of caught the project pretty far behind. And we would like to obviously extend it, and we would really like to use local contractors within the town. And that may be a little bit difficult to find, so actually putting a time frame on it, for that reason, may be a little bit difficult to say it'll be done by X. Unfortunately, I really would like to say it'll be done by 2023, 24, whatever, because we really want to get it done. We think it's going to be a valuable community center when it's finished, and we just want to get it done. But there's a lot of factors in the time frame. So like I said, I'd really love to give you a definite time frame, but unfortunately, I really can't give you a realistic number. The sooner the better for us, but we don't have that time frame. And I don't know if we can extend both of the grants at this one meeting, or if we have to wait till the 3 years is up on the, I believe it's the walls and the interior was that grant.
Yeah,
So I don't know if we can do both of them, and I'm more than happy to come back if we can't. That's not a big thing.
thank you. Yeah, no, we could certainly talk about that right now. And, we will need to come up with a date to move forward if that's what the committee chooses to do. And then we can revisit it again if need be. But we would certainly want to give you ample time because, this committee has always supported that project, as have the voters, and want to see it go to completion. And so whereas one was voted in 2018 in the May meeting, the documentation wouldn't have been until probably July, August, September. I don't know exactly what. So even if we said it was, and then that one, and we know work can be done through the winter, especially interior work. The second one was done at a special town meeting in November of 2019. So that's still hasn't come up on 2 years yet for that. But, syncing these up, I think is prudent. Does anybody have anything they'd like to share or thoughts?
Is there also, there was also a question about the health and welfare of one of the contractors that
That was one of the contributing
Yeah,
factors that was falling behind. He was on board with coming in when he could. During the COVID thing, he didn't have an issue with working in the building or working on the handicap ramp, which I believe is the project he was involved in at that point. And that certainly would have been done reasonably quick, because he's pretty proactive when it comes to working with us. He's a really good guy with us, and I honestly believe that would have been done in the proper time frame if it wasn't for some health concerns. Like I said earlier, I really would like to keep it to somebody within the town, local contractors are kind of preferred for us.
Yeah, and then let me remind everybody, whereas this is a project that is awarded to the Historical Society, they are the proponents, they are responsible for the party. They don't have the same, they need to be prudent in their pursuits of contractors, but they don't go through the same bidding process that the town has to for its Chapter 30B. But so they're controlling the budget of that, but they have to answer to the town for the way the money is spent to complete the work as indicated within the dollar amount. So frankly, I don't have the date of that second one, which would probably not have been signed off until early 2020. So it's because it was voted in November of 2019, that the Walls one.
It sounds right.
Yeah, because, it takes a little while to get the paperwork together. So let's just say it was January of 2020, it would come up again in January of 2023. Whereas this one, that's the ramp is coming up on its 3 years now. So if we said January 2023, rather than that, for that, what if we went all the way out to January of 2025, or is that too far out, or?
well, I don't know. We'd like to see it done much quicker than that because
Yeah,
It's just
we would as well.
it's to adapt the main entrance into the building so that we can, people will be able to readily access the building. So
Yeah, so maybe we should just make the first one ending on the same as the second one currently is, which would be January of 2025. 2023,
Yeah, so it's like,
January 2023, which will be here before you know it. That way they would be in sync, and then you could contract and get the work done. And so basically, we wouldn't be extending the second project. It would still have that same end date, but the older project would now have the end date to match the second project.
I feel pretty confident that we could certainly get either that done or a very majority of it done,
right.
given no unforeseen setbacks.
Okay, so does anybody on the phone or anywhere have any comments or questions about this changing of the grant award end date on the, we'll call it the ramp project?
I make a motion that we extend both of them. I mean, anybody that's still alive can figure out what's been going on in the last 2 years. You know, there's why it's not because of due diligence that nobody wanted to do it. You know, I make the suggestion that we honor both of them and move the dates up and go from
Okay,
there.
so we will meet, what date are you proposing?
Was it 23, you said?
January 31st, 2023?
23.
Any other comments on that? I heard a little static.
No, that sounds reasonable.
Okay, so we have a motion, and essentially what we're doing is whatever the current terminus date of the second project is, this will be the same as the first project.
Exactly.
And so,
But give the extension to, you know.
and then we'll obviously monitor the progress and see what needs to happen. And, you know, if it needs to happen again, it's not, you know, it's just a vote by this committee to move forward. And as long as it's clear that the progress is being made and things are looking good, you know, but you're not quite there, I don't think people have a problem extending.
Good.
Okay, so we have I'm going to take your motion then, Brad, to state that we are going to extend the first project to have the same end date as the second project, and to revisit it again in the next year to see if we need to extend it again.
Exactly.
Is there a second?
I mean, we can't control a person's health, so.
Right.
Yeah, I'll second that.
Okay, so we've got a motion made and seconded to extend the ramp project to have a grant award date that matches the interior wall, if we call it that, project. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, we'll do a roll call vote, starting on the phone with Carrie.
Agree. Or what am I supposed to say?
Joanne?
Approve?
Yes,
Yay, nay, yeah, that's a
Yes.
yes and a yes. Okay, yes for Joanne, Brad,
Yes.
Dennis,
Yes,
and John, yes. So 5, unanimous vote of 5 in approval. Thank you, Tom.
Thank you.
And while we're on the topic of the Historical Society, just as informational, there has been a request. They have some frames of some, do you know about that project, the Civil War?
Civil War frames, yes.
Yeah, and so there was a question as to whether some work could be done on, can you give any kind of a synopsis on exactly what the frames are?
Yeah, I can give a little story of the history of the frames. At the end of the Civil War, now, I'm fuzzy on the dates, so I'm not gonna give out.
We don't
any
need
dates.
a dissertation.
1865.
There's Civil War frames that, the Civil War plaque that listed soldiers that had passed in the Civil War from town. There's 4 of them, from one from each of the regiments that went into the Civil War. And the frames were built by a prominent person in town. The name escapes me at this moment. And what they did was they built these huge frames. They're about 14 feet tall. They're approximately 8 to 10 feet wide, and 2 plaques go in each one of these frames. And these frames were in the GAR hall for years. And when they started to take the GAR hall down, in the process of pulling the hall down, Colonel Tucker spotted the frames and wanted to get them out of the hall and preserve them. So they ended up at your grandfather's barn, or uncle, Ralph Henshaw. They ended up in Ralph Henshaw's barn for storage. And Ralph had called us up and said, hey, the barn's getting a little bit rough. do you want to come pick up these frames? And we didn't really know what they were. And when we spotted them and we found out what they were, yeah, we wanted them. So what we'd like to do now is we'd like to put them, we'd like to restore them to the original look with the plaques in them and install them in the back of the Grange Hall stage so that they'll be on display for the townspeople to view them and appreciate them if they've been restored.
Great, yeah, so they're kind of coming up with some figures to see what that would cost, and that would be something that would be a future potential project and town meeting article. There will be a question as to who owns these frames. Are they owned by the town or are they owned by the Historical Society? In either case, it would be an allowable project, but there needs to be a clear benefit to the townspeople whenever CPA funds are spent. And that has, at the Grange Hall, for example, always been satisfied through open, free access to townspeople, et cetera.
Yeah.
And I know there had been some discussion on that. So this is really preliminary now, but wanted to bring that forward, and we'll hear more about it going forward.
Well, I know for a fact they're not privately owned by any one person. So they are in the possession of the Narragansett Historical Society. It's my belief that the Historical Society owns them.
Yeah, so it might be helpful to actually track that down, and maybe that's something we could talk to the Historical Commission about as well. And that's something that we clearly would want to know prior to voting it at a town meeting. Not that, the Historical Society is a private entity, but it is primarily serving the town's interests. So any questions or comments?
That's an interesting question because the GAL Hall was for the Civil War veterans, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, the Grand Army Republic was part of the Civil War.
yeah, so I don't know. That's a good question.
So that might be included in the project is to do some historical documentation research on it.
Yeah, and I'm fuzzy on that, but that may have already been done, and we may have a history on it. I'll talk with our historian Harry Aldrich and our president Brian, and see if we can come
That'll be
up with
another-
an anticipation of what the status is
What
of
kind
that
of-
as far as
yeah.
ownership.
Okay,
Be another good research project for Brian.
But he doesn't have enough projects.
okay. Any other questions or comments on that? All right, thank you, Tom.
Thank you.
Okay, so then we're continuing to go through the general ledger of just to kind of give an update on things, projects that are outstanding. The next one on the list is under the community housing allocation in June of 2020, Day Mill Affordable Housing, it's called, but it's primarily $17,500 was approved for the town to try to figure out how it can develop an approach to secure the affordable housing restrictions that oftentimes are come up for sale, and the town has no ability to act to keep them with that affordable designation. And so, that was some money to kind of evaluate whether an affordable housing trust or other things would be warranted. That will be another one. We're going to have to meet with the town manager to develop what the plan is going forward on that. So no funds have yet been spent on it. And of course, we have the Baldwinville School project, which I mentioned before, is now on the ledger, $1.174 million. The River's Edge Conservation Area is the project that it started as the creation of open space for the removal of the old, what was, the superintendent's office along the Otter River there in Baldwinville across from the fire station. So monies were approved to take the building down and to, create open space. And there's been discussion of putting a veterans park there. And then now there's more discussion on a conservation area. There is a balance of $35,842 in that account. And I know the town manager has indicated he's had some discussions with the Conservation Commission about going forward on that. So that's still in process. Scout Hall has 2 appropriations, and that is another project that has been ongoing. The first one was in 2016, and that has a balance of $6,600 remaining. And then an additional $50,000 was appropriated in 2019 that has not been spent. And I know some work has recently been done in there to wrap up some phases of that. That is one what the town manager is also having discussion with buildings and grounds to move forward on that. So we'll have to get an update on that from them.
How much was in that first account?
The first account, 6595. Okay. And the Boynton Library has an approval for $70,000 to preserve the building and like such, and could be used in conjunction with additional funds that they have secured through bequeathment. They put a new roof on it and stuff like that, but they have not accessed any of the $70,000. That would be things like repointing the bricks or doing other things to preserve the exterior and or other preservation work at the Boynton Library. And so we'll stay tuned on that one. And then an additional appropriation was made in 2020 for Stone Bridge. And that is to move forward. The original work helped define some of the options, and now there's an additional pool of money to help move it forward. And that will be with the select board as well.
And that amount was what?
50,000,
Another 50.
yeah. So we are showing a balance of $84,000 for Stone Bridge. Okay, so that is an update of the projects that we have had monies approved for. We'll continue to explore and to work forward on these and to find out when we can get a completion date on these projects. Any questions or comments? Okay. So the next thing we need to discuss is the schedule for our annual needs analysis meeting. This was brought to our attention at the last town meeting that we didn't have one this year. This is the one that we need to post in the newspaper, and we've held them here, we've held them at other locations, but we need to do it again. So we need to pick a date. The question is, and then we have to do the posting of the advertisements and do some outreach to try to get people to show up, as is a challenge with all things, or to zoom in, whatever. And so one thought I had was just to have it in conjunction with our regular monthly meeting, or we could schedule another date. If there is a fall town meeting, or we know there will be a fall town meeting, but there could be articles brought forward, so we would have to have meetings to discuss that. So even if we have a needs analysis meeting as part of a regular meeting, we will still have to do any regular business. So we could talk about doing it as a separate date or not, but we do want to get it on the calendar for 2021 and open to any thoughts. We need at least 2 weeks of advertising in advance. So even the September meeting, might be too soon, but October could be. Or we could have it on a different date. We would just have to, and if we have to find a date and a venue, we might not be able to decide tonight, but does anybody have any thoughts?
I would suggest having it, considering the lack of attendance at most of these meetings, would suggest having it as part of our regular meeting.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's a good idea. And I like the October timeframe better.
Okay, so our October meeting would be October 14th, which is the second Thursday. And so 6:30 is the time that we have landed on for our regular meeting. We could have this needs analysis meeting at 6:30 and our regular meeting at 7, or we could do a regular meeting at 6:30. And if there's any business to do, bang it out and then start the needs analysis at 7. How late can we get TCTV to support it? Can you stay till 8? So what if we post our regular meeting, keep our regular meeting at 6:30, but then have the needs analysis meeting at 7 on the 14th?
Sounds
That work for
efficient.
everybody?
Yeah.
Okay, and so we might as well, since everybody's here, we'll vote on it. I was gonna say we're gonna do it without a vote if we had to, but we have a quorum. So Do we have a motion for October 14th at 7 PM?
I'll make a motion that we support.
Oh.
Having it At 7 PM after following our regular meeting.
Okay, do we have a second?
I'll second
Second.
that. I'll let
Okay.
Joanne have this one.
Thank you.
I'd already got it done. Easy as. No, very good. Any discussion? We've already had it, so we'll just go right to the vote. We'll start with Carrie. 14th at 7 PM? Yes or no?
Yes.
Joanne? Joanne,
Yes,
are you saying yes because you think I'm asking you to respond, or yes because you're voting in favor?
no, I'm voting in favor.
Excellent, thank you. Brad,
Yes.
Dennis?
Yeah.
And I vote yes. Okay, so be it. I will work with getting the proper postings through the Garden News because we know everybody reads that. That's our official newspaper. So next item on the thing was discussion of current projects, including the Templeton Grange Scout Hall. But really, we've already mentioned the Grange. We've extended that project. We know there's some contractor challenges, so they're gonna move forward on that. Scout Hall, I'm gonna meet with the town manager and we'll get an update at our next meeting, if that's okay. Potential projects, we did hear a little bit about the Historical Society, and the other potential project that we've heard from is there's two new members of the Cemetery Commission, Joe and Mike. Joe Peralta, or I can't remember. I was gonna write it down. And Mike Katz. And we met at the old common burial ground behind First Church of Templeton, where we've restored the vaults. And there's concern there that there's some trees that are dead and about to fall onto some of these graves, including the Civil War one that we had restored for Colonel Jackson down there. In addition, they need to clean the stones and do some other restoration work. So they're exploring potentially coming to the town for funds to do protection, preservation, and restoration at the common burial ground. And that would include redoing a sign. You know, we have signs up there that indicate CPA, but they're just the painted signs, and they don't really fit within the an old cemetery. They're kind of one's blue, one's red, or whatever. And so that was the discussion of a project for that. And then they would purchase the solution that is used to clean the graves. And of course, it would be available to use at all the cemeteries, including, Baptist Common. And I guess they now have learned that one on Norcross Hill belongs to their purview up at the old TDC. So stay tuned on that. They're kind of getting their figures together to figure out what it would cost. They've been in contact with the volunteer organization that does this across the nation, and they have the American Society for Graveyards official, approach. So they're doing their homework, and that's something that they may want to do at a fall town meeting because of, especially with the jeopardy of the trees. And you can't just put a tree crew in there because of the sensitive nature. You can't get a crane in there. You'll need to have a special arborist and then perhaps also develop a plan. They may need to do surveying as well because the bounds are not totally, delineated. So there could be an opportunity for us to support the continued preservation of that resource. And it does get a lot of visit, and it is as well as the other ones, the active cemeteries, they have their regular processes going on. So just wanted to share that with everybody. So we'll hear more about that when they're figuring out what they're trying to do. So that includes the items that we had on the agenda. We have time now for new business, if there's anything to come forward.
God, that's something else we bring up.
So this is both new business and old business. If anybody has anything that they want to bring up, they want to drag their feet long enough for Dennis to remember what it was.
Yeah.
I do have a question.
Hey, Jeremy.
I'll give Dennis some time. I have one quick question. The signage for the CPC funding, you just mentioned that kind of jogged my memory. Is there a specific wording on that sign, or is there something that we can get so we can make these signs?
Yes,
We've
well,
kind of fascinated on that a little bit. We really like to, notify people that that's where the funding is.
yeah, and that's a requirement of all projects is to have signage. And what we encourage is incorporating it within the scope and the look of the property. So it's not like this big, neon sign in front of it. So, but if you look at the Civil War, the World War I guy monument, Alan Mayo, who led that project, was a CPA project. He got a bronze plaque, and it's in the ground, and it mentions, that this project was made possible by the Community Preservation Act and the citizens of Templeton. And so you can check that language there. I can email you what's recommended by the state for language, but it's something to that effect.
If that plaque is valid, then on my next walk, I can just take a
Yeah.
quick picture of it.
Take a walk over there, and that company did a wonderful job, that restored that, the statue, the patina. So, but they also were the ones that were able to connect us, I think, with the plaque, because it's a bronze plaque. And so that's laid in the ground, which is fine, especially if it's, kept and maintained, or it could be in the side of the building. As long as people can see it, but they don't have to,
Are there
Trip over it.
any specifications on size and
no,
distance to be able to read it from?
yes, there are. Signs, it depends on where you go, but there's people that have a lot of, things like who's that? The federal agency was involved with historic preservation. They have some standards and things like that.
Is that something you could send, you could email?
Yeah.
me? Okay.
I'll just, I got your email, so, link to signage specs. And another good thing for everybody to know is that the Community Preservation Coalition, if you go to communitypreservation.org, that's a Massachusetts only based organization, and towns that have passed the CPA can become members of that. And we do that for, I think it's around $750 a year. And that gives us a great resource to people who have, are professionals in the field, but this organization shares all the information. They just sent an email out today that they've got a new, the database of all the projects is reposted. And so there's a lot of resources on what you need to do. So it's a resource for towns that have passed it, because not everybody is, Cambridge or Framingham, sometimes it's Templeton or Phillipston, and we don't have as much. So there's good resources there.
And if you could include that link
Yeah.
in the email.
Okay, anything else?
I just thought what it was. The ball field behind Graves which we've never done anything with. I noticed they're taking down that sand mound that separated them from ball field.
Yeah,
I don't know if we need to go out there and maybe check and see if there's any transgression or trespassing or whatever.
yeah, that would certainly, that, and the town is also undergoing some discussions, I guess, on the reorganization of cemetery and parks, delineation, who's the cemetery and who's responsible for parks and open space, and then there's conservation. And that was, we all remember there was a town meeting vote to put that parcel under the custody of the parks, cemetery and parks. So, but now cemetery and parks need to be separate, because parks falls under parks and rec. I don't know what the town is doing on that, but that's something that we could ask the town manager about that, and we
Okay.
could go out there and have a look.
Yeah, I don't know, if they've reached that point yet with it. But it was.
No,
only a-
because they're taking this and that's already that,
Right, and
but
the road was almost up against the back of the hill.
Plus, they just sold within the last month or two, the last house on 2A before you get into the Gardner line. And that land goes all the way back to that sandbank, from my understanding. So in the months and weeks and years to come, we should keep an eye on that as well.
I think Graves bought a section of that against 2A, or no, 101. I should say.
yeah, some of the backland, as I
Yeah.
recall, they
I think
because
they-
there was some
they just-
discussion about the town and
Yeah,
um,
Oh, okay.
It
But
did
the
go all,
Eames
like you
house-
say, it did go all the way back to,
All the way back to.
yeah, to 101, but I think Grace arranged at one point to purchase a certain amount of that land. They were actually probably using some of it anyway.
Okay, yeah, so take your dog out there for a walk and have a look. You can still
I
go,
don't even know how I get out there anymore.
go by the
because,
sewer plant, I mean, in Gardner.
Yeah, they got that fenced off now.
Well, Templeton has to go in there to their pumping station, so
Yeah,
you can
they
get it
must-
right in
they
there
must
with,
have a key or something,
yeah. Or just, we can talk to the
yeah.
town people, not trespass certainly, so.
Talk to one of the commissioners for the sewer.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
Precisely. So we can do that off at another time. Any other issues or discussion points? Okay, well, our next meeting will be the second Thursday in September. We'll have to confirm that both TCTV and this room are available. That would be the 9th, 6:30. Okay. And then, yeah, 6:30 to 7:30.
Are you gonna take care of putting that posting in the paper for the?
Yes.
Okay.
Or I'm gonna, Holly might be able, I don't know who usually does it or what. But we will work on that for the needs analysis meeting. Okay, and that will come out of our administrative budget. So I guess maybe, I don't, it's not a lot of money, but
More than it was. All
any other discussion other than that? Do we have a motion to adjourn or
Make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second that.
motion made and seconded to adjourn? All those in favor? Roll call vote. Carrie?
Yes.
Joanne?
Yes.
Yes. Brad?
Yes.
Dennis?